So Bitcoin's the only solution that I see right now. Is it gonna fix it? Dang, I don't know, but it's where all my hope goes because there's nothing left.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Daily Crypto. We have Greg Foss with us. Show will share his viewpoint on how he thinks the Fed might pivot, so make sure to watch the full video. But before we get started, let's take a look at the Fear and Greed Index for today. As of recording this video, the FNG index is at 26, even better than yesterday. Currently Bitcoin and Ethereum are trading for $20,218 and $1,369 respectively. With that out of the way, let's continue with the video.
Well, here's the thing, right? It's all about your known knowns versus your known unknowns. So markets need to anticipate. If they have clarity on future expectations, markets tend to be able to work through that. And it's my opinion, it's only an opinion, that the inflation bogey is out of the bag. It's not good numbers, but the reality is the truth has been exposed and the markets are trying to deal with it. I will say that 8% CPI inflation is not a good number, but at least it's been divulged. And do I think that number goes to, let's say, 12%? And I got to be clear here, using the same metrics that got it to 8%, I don't believe that inflation goes to 12% before it goes to 6%, which means there will be a correction to the downside of inflation, posted inflation, and therefore in expectations can rationalize the information that's been delivered.
Greg believes that the high inflation risk is no longer a concern, as he expects inflation to stay between the 6 to 12% range for a very long time. Now, these aren't very promising numbers for the economy, but at least it's not higher.
One of the most important things that people are overlooking is really the growth of humans on the planet and how our declining growth or birth rate will impact inflation expectations and actual deflation going forward. So there's a confluence of short-term impacts versus reality of long-term trends, like the one baby per family in China. This takes a long time to work itself through the system so that global growth, which could be measured by human population, is actually on a decline, which will lead to long-term disinflation. Don't want to get too confusing for everybody. Remember, we are at 8%. That is a posted number. Okay, it's not a good number, but at least it's posted, and the market is trying to figure out how to deal with that. What hasn't been posted, the second part of my tweet, is the concerns over the credit contagion. We haven't had that blow up of a big bank yet. That's what I'm concerned about.
When we look at the inflation and population correlation over the long term, it will definitely play a big role in further aiding the development of a deflationary environment for the economy. Moreover, Greg says he is concerned that a major bank hasn't collapsed so far because we are in a credit crisis.
I'm not forecasting the eventual demise of Credit Suisse, but I will tell you the market is. Because all I need to do is look at a credit default swap obligation on Credit Suisse, okay? Lots of acronyms here. A CDS contract on Credit Suisse, and the cost of insurance has risen to levels never before seen, higher levels than during the great financial crisis. And if you just take what that means in layman's terms, it means that the cost to Credit Suisse to raise money, to bring money into the banking system, has the US 5-year rate. Let's take 4% and add on another almost 4% for credit risk for the bank called Credit Suisse. 4% plus 4%, their cost of funds is 8% before they've even made a loan. How many loans do you think are profitable that they can add an incremental loan spread on top of their cost of funds without taking excessive amounts of risk, i.e. lending to zombie companies, and then it becomes circular. So when your cost of funds is 8% and the really good loans out there are at 6%, you're not making those loans.
Credit Suisse Bank is under the radar as it is becoming more and more difficult for it to continue its operations properly. Banks have to pay a cost to enter federal money into their ecosystems, which is 8%. This is a very big number, as it means people will stop taking loans because they're too expensive as compared to other lenders. Ultimately, this will result in unprofitable loans, which will seriously hammer the bank.
They have to forego a very important part of the lending market, the low risk part, which means they're lending to higher risk companies, which just causes the circularity. I know you say you weren't involved in this business in school, but just imagine that when you deposit money into a bank, you're really lending your money to a bank, and they turn around and take your loan and re-lend it at a higher rate and make that spread, and that's how the bank makes money. Pretty cool, isn't it? Until it goes kaboom, because people say, guess what? The loans you've made are silly, risk-adjusted loans. They're going to default, and therefore it's going to cause the whole system to collapse.
When a bank fails to lower their risk on giving out loans, people will start defaulting because the rates will be way too high for them to pay back. This will eventually lead to the collapse of the bank, which in this case could be the Credit Suisse Bank.
It's just my belief that the outcome in an inflation scenario is more drawn out and less disturbing than the outcome in a global depression scenario, which could be followed by global war. Okay? I don't believe the first one leads to global war. I do believe the second one, global depression, could lead to global war. And there are the risks that I tend to evaluate between the two. And why cannot Jerome Powell be Chairman Paul Volcker of the 1980s? And incidentally, that's when I started my career trading, was in the 1980s with Paul Volcker. Very simply, and I see this note here from Bunny, very simply because the US debt situation today is about 4 times worse than it was when Paul Volcker was chairman of the Fed, which is to say, when Volcker was chairman of the Fed trying to fight the inflation boogeyman, total debt to GDP was 30%. Now, today, Jerome Powell is trying to fight the same battle when debt to GDP is 4 times as high, which is to say it's at 120%.
Greg fears that a global recession could result in global warfare, which is why it is an extremely serious matter. The US national debt situation is out of hand, and we have already crossed the 31 trillion mark. Is Jerome Powell making the right moves or not? That's a different debate, but the fact is, he is facing a situation 4 times worse than that in the 1980s.
So, I hope you appreciate, I don't have 100% clarity on this, but I do know that Bitcoin can help the stupidity of the fiat cycle that causes banks to be regularly insolvent. Okay, so that's a good thing. Yes, Bitcoin can help. Will it fix it? Hard to say, but it's our best chance. I don't see any other tool that will help fix the system like Bitcoin can fix. Then the second part of your question, so Bitcoin's the only solution that I see right now. Is it gonna fix it? Dang, I don't know, but it's where all my hope goes because there's nothing left. There's no other part of the system that can fix the fiat Ponzi.
Greg says that Bitcoin is the only thing that can save us from an inevitable fiat collapse, and he sees no other option that can help banks in saving themselves from insolvency.
Will governments allow Bitcoin to succeed? And I'm going to come out very clearly and say there will be governments that embrace Bitcoin and governments that resist Bitcoin. And the governments that embrace Bitcoin, in my opinion, will be the winners. And the governments that resist Bitcoin will play their paths to destruction. So, very smart young man out of Boston, Jason Lowry, friend of mine. I've met him in person, who's working for the US Space Force. I think he could be the smartest guy I've met in the Bitcoin community so far. And that's not to say or to detract from the likes of a Jeff Booth or James Lavish or Larry Lepard. All of these guys are brilliant. And I will say, if I'm the smartest guy in the room ever, go find another room, okay? I'm going to look for another room because I better not be the smartest guy in the room. If I'm the smartest guy in the room, we're in big trouble.
No doubt that we will see governments that will wither support and embrace Bitcoin, or try their best to resist it. Greg thinks those governments will succeed who let Bitcoin flourish because they will have the support of people who seek freedom.
California is a bigger economy than Canada. So I want the USA to succeed, okay? I've gone to school there. You guys know that. I love freedom. You guys know that. I believe the USA is still the last remaining bastion of freedom in the world. I want the USA to adopt Bitcoin. Is it possible that they, well, yeah, I'd say it's even more likely that they don't than they do. But the people that think they should is growing all the time. You have DeSantis, you have Cynthia Lummis, you have all these politicians in the USA that understand the advantages of sound money. Not to mention smart money managers like Larry Lepard, who's pitching it to his clients. And even it's like, you know, you got to chip away at this over time. So I want you guys to understand that even though I'm Canadian, I'm absolutely rooting for the United States, because if the USA fails, Canada doesn't have a chance. That's absolutely true. And if Canada fails, well, the USA still has a chance, but the chance is lessened because Canada is the USA's first or second largest trading partner, defined, you know, it used to be easily the number one trading partner. Now there's different ways of measuring it. The point is, Canada lives rent-free in your attic, okay?
According to Greg, USA is the most pro-freedom country in the world, which is why we might see it adopting Bitcoin in the future too. But this won't happen soon, as the likelihood of the US government resisting Bitcoin during current times is extremely high. However, this doesn't mean that we will never see it happen. Thanks for watching this video. Please leave a like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss any informational videos like this. See you guys in the next video.